Consumer Price Index, November 2022. Transmission of material in this release is embargoed until 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, December 13, 2022. The Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, CPI-U, rose 0.1% in November on a seasonally adjusted basis, after increasing 0.4% in October, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today. Over the last 12 months, the All Items Index increased 7.1% before seasonal adjustment. The index for shelter was by far the largest contributor to the monthly All Items increase, more than offsetting decreases in energy indexes. The Food Index increased 0.5% over the month, with the Food at Home Index also rising 0.5%. The Energy Index decreased 1.6% over the month as the Gasoline Index, the Natural Gas Index, and the Electricity Index all declined. The index for all items less food and energy rose 0.2% in November, after rising 0.3% in October. The indexes for shelter, communication, recreation, motor vehicle insurance, education, and apparel were among those that increased over the month. Indexes which declined in November include the used cars and trucks, medical care, and airline fares indexes. The All Items Index increased 7.1% for the 12 months ending November. This was the smallest 12-month increase since the period ending December 2021. The All Items Less Food and Energy Index rose 6.0% over the last 12 months. The Energy Index increased 13.1% for the 12 months ending November, and the Food Index increased 10.6% over the last year. All of these increases were smaller than for the period ending October. Chart 1. 1-month percent change in CPI for all urban consumers, CPI-U, seasonally adjusted, November 2021 to November 2022. Chart 2. 12-month percent change in CPI for all urban consumers, CPI-U, not seasonally adjusted, November 2021 to November 2022. Table A. Percent changes in CPI for all urban consumers, CPI-U, U.S. city average. Food. The Food Index increased 0.5% in November following a 0.6% increase in October. The Food at Home Index also rose 0.5% in November. 4 of the 6 major grocery store food group indexes increased over the month. The index for fruits and vegetables increased 1.4% in November, after falling 0.9% in October. The index for cereals and bakery products rose 1.1% over the month, while the index for dairy and related products increased 1.0% in November. The index for non-alcoholic beverages rose 0.7% in November, after rising 0.5% last month. In contrast, the index for meats, poultry, fish, and eggs fell 0.2% over the month after increasing 0.6% in October. The beef index fell 0.8% over the month, while the pork index fell 0.3%. The index for other food at home also declined in November, falling 0.1%. The Food Away from Home Index rose 0.5% in November, after increasing 0.9% in each of the previous 3 months. The index for limited service meals increased 0.6% over the month, and the index for full service meals increased 0.4%. The Food at Home Index rose 12.0% over the last 12 months. The index for cereals and bakery products and the index for dairy and related products both rose 16.4% over the year. The remaining major grocery store food groups posted increases ranging from 6.8%, meats, poultry, fish, and eggs, to 13.9%, other food at home. The index for food away from home rose 8.5% over the last year. The index for full-service meals rose 9.0% over the last 12 months, and the index for limited service meals rose 6.7% over the same period. Energy. The Energy Index fell 1.6% in November after rising 1.8% in October. The Gasoline Index declined 2.0% over the month, following a 4.0% increase in October. Before seasonal adjustment, gasoline prices fell 3.6% in November. The index for natural gas continued to decline over the month, falling 3.5% after decreasing 4.6% in October. The electricity index decreased 0.2% in November. The energy index rose 13.1% over the past 12 months. The gasoline index increased 10.1% over the span and the fuel oil index rose 65.7%. The index for electricity rose 13.7% over the last 12 months, and the index for natural gas increased 15.5% over the same period. All items less food and energy. The index for all items less food and energy rose 0.2% in November, its smallest increase since August 2021. The shelter index continued to increase, rising 0.6% over the month. The rent index rose 0.8% over the month, and the owner's equivalent rent index rose 0.7%. The index for lodging away from home decreased 0.7% in November, after rising 4.9% in October. The shelter index was the dominant factor in the monthly increase in the index for all items less food and energy. Other components were a mix of increases and declines. Among the indexes that rose in November was the index for communication, which increased 1.0% over the month after, decreasing 0.1% in October. The index for recreation rose 0.5% in November, following a 0.7% increase in the previous month. The motor vehicle insurance index increased 0.9% in November, the personal care index rose 0.7%, and the education index rose 0.3% over the month. In contrast, the medical care index fell 0.5% in November, as it did in October. The index for hospital and related services decreased 0.3% over the month, and the index for prescription drugs declined 0.2%. The index for physician services was unchanged in November. Other indexes which declined over the month include the index for used cars and trucks, which fell 2.9% in November, the fifth consecutive decline in that index. The index for airline fares fell 3.0% over the month, following a 1.1% decrease in October. The index for household furnishings and operations was unchanged in November, as was the index for new vehicles. The index for all items less food and energy rose 6.0% over the past 12 months. The shelter index increased 7.1% over the last year, accounting for nearly half of the total increase in all items less food and energy. Other indexes with notable increases over the last year include household furnishings and operations, plus 7.6%, medical care, plus 4.2%, new vehicles, plus 7.2%, and recreation, plus 4.7%. Not seasonally adjusted CPI measures. The Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, CPI-U, increased 7.1% over the last 12 months to an index level of 297.711, 1982 to 84 equals 100. For the month, the index decreased 0.1% prior to seasonal adjustment. The Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, CPI-U, increased 7.1% over the last 12 months to an index level of 292.495, 1982 to 84 equals 100. For the month, the index decreased 0.2% prior to seasonal adjustment. The Chained Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, CCPI-U, increased 6.9% over the last 12 months. For the month, the index decreased 0.1% on a not seasonally adjusted basis. Please note that the indexes for the past 10 to 12 months are subject to revision. The Consumer Price Index for December 2022 is scheduled to be released on Thursday, January 12, 2023, at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time.